Welcome, everybody, to Movies, Comics, Uruguay. This is the MCU podcast, not actually from Uruguay.
I'm pretty sure Uruguay was the second episode.
No, it couldn't have been.
I know it's early on.
I refuse to believe that I have such a limited vocabulary when it comes to you.
Okay, to be perfectly honest, I listened to like the first minute of every single episode when I was putting out the YouTube videos, and I'm like, I've heard Uruguay.
I'm not saying I
Oh,
haven't said Uruguay. I'm just ashamed at myself. Like, no, you
oh,
couldn't.
Uganda.
Was it Uganda?
No, no, how about you use Uganda this time?
All right, yeah. Movies, comics, Uganda. Just cut that in. Uganda. This is the MCU podcast with
You,
Chris and Fragger.
Uganda, believe it.
Oh,
I went
I
there.
don't. That's pretty bad, though. I'm
Oh,
actually a bit ashamed that I even
oh,
kind of gave that like a cursiary. Like, hey, good job, you.
I should leave.
I
So
don't know if you need to leave, but you definitely need to feel ashamed.
I always feel that.
Okay, well, understandable. As long as you know your place.
Hmm. So we are living now in the post Age of Ultron world.
Yes. Well, if you were in the US, in the UK, you've been like, oh, we got the Ultron like 3 weeks ago. What are you wankers talking about? But for the rest of us, yeah, we're like, we finally got it.
And we're
You
like,
jerks.
hey, we get fucking Agents of Shield correctly, and then they just flip us off.
Yeah, everyone over there is like, yo, how about that Agent of Shield's episode where Ward managed to free Agent 13? That was pretty cool, right?
We're
Just like,
like,
yeah.
how about the fact that Sky's going into the chamber?
They're just like, wait, are you implying that Sky's an Inhuman? Well, I am. She's still chasing the Diviner. Like, oh.
Oh, this is awkward.
But yes, we are now in a post Ultron world.
Hmm.
The remnants of Phase 2 are right before us, just Ant Man to get through, and then we look forward to the marvelous Phase 3.
Avengers: Age of Ultron Part 2, also known as Civil War.
Yes, just without Ultron.
Yeah, just that Ultron. We'll get into that in a little bit, but first, as we used to do back in the day, we have a little bit of housekeeping to do with Age of Ultron. So, Age of Ultron was, of course, released to massive fanfare, and we are talking a $191 million domestic debut, which is about 16 million, sorry, under what the first one did.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen people running all over the place saying reasons this, reasons that. If we're going to be honest, the reason is probably because of how incredibly stacked this weekend was for other entertainment.
Yeah, the big theory I've heard is that with all like the Kentucky Derby, with the NFL draft, with
Game 7.
the Game 7, with the Mayweather Pacquiao fight, people were just spending their time and money elsewhere.
Yeah, there was enough going on this weekend that it would take a chunk out of it, but the simple fact that it only did 17 under is pretty impressive.
Mhm.
Point of fact is, I'm looking at Monday's numbers, and Age of Ultron did earn less than the first Avengers on its Monday, but that could just be for word of mouth that is currently happening.
It is also the fact too that it's not the same spectacle that the first Avengers was, and that sense of like, holy crap, all of them are on the same screen together. You
Yeah, that
know,
that was a big fucking deal where the very first Avengers came out and everyone just was like, "Oh my god, I have to see this. This is actually happening." Just kind of like the same thing's going to happen with Batman Superman.
like, oh, I need to see Batman and Superman on the same screen together.
That's also going to be housing these other people for 5 seconds. But the real thing that's going to happen is how big the second weekend is, because Ultron does have some competition whereas the first Avengers really didn't.
Well, what's coming out next weekend?
Not next weekend. There's a few weekends from now. We got actually no. I think it's next weekend, not this coming one. The weekend after that we're recording this, Mad Max hits,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
there's a fair bit of audience crossover. The more
Yeah.
adult audience is going to want to see probably I see Mad Max. Um, Ultron's not really that hurting. It's just right now Marvel's not having the best of press right now.
No, there was some unfortunate fallout from the Ultron press tour. A couple times people had foot and mouth syndrome, or just, topics came up that made the people uncomfortable, or this and that, and it just caused an unnecessary amount of stress to some people. A lot of it I can understand, as from what I understand, it's essentially like 3 weeks of just nonstop press interviews
Yeah.
which sounds maddening. I don't know how Chris Evans does it. I mean, that dude has gone from Winter Soldier into Age of Ultron, carrying right into Civil War. Like I can't fathom how that dude puts up. Like I feel like I'd go insane.
And I have no idea, but odds are he's going to be in Infinity War,
Very very likely he's in Infinity War.
unless he gets shot in the face, which could very easily happen in Civil
It,
War.
it good, yeah.
Yeah, yes, yes. And they've already said that Infinity War is going to be a 9-month shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh man.
oof, that's fucking rough, man. But so we got a whole bunch of shit to look forward to. But yeah, the fucking press for Age of Ultron has not been that great. From Joss Whedon being bullied off of Twitter to what was it, Hemsworth? Was it Evans or Hemsworth?
It
With
was
Jeremy
Chris
Renner?
Evans and it was Evans and Renner. So
Yeah,
Captain America and Hawkeye.
calling Black Widow's character a slut and what kind of horror?
I think they just called her a slut. I
No,
don't know
horror
if
was mentioned.
I think it was probably like, yeah, she's a total slut, and I think the other guy chimed in like, yeah, what a whore, or something like that.
Jokingly.
Yeah.
The problem is then they apologized and then Renner brought it up again.
Well, correction. Chris Evans apologized. Jeremy
That's
Renner
right.
was like, "Fuck you, internet kids."
Yeah, that's right.
His response was essentially like, "I'm sorry you all got mad about a joke I said about a fictional character. My bad."
And then he said he got internet trouble.
Hmm.
Renner,
Yeah, and
I like
proceeded
you as
to.
an actor, but please don't have that attitude. That doesn't help.
It's definitely not. It's surprising, actually, almost in a way refreshing in the sense that you never see it happen otherwise. A total bad move, but it's so strange because you never see people at this point when they have a statement or they do some action that gets them called out for being, maybe not politically correct. People rarely ever take like the resistive response to it, like f you guys. I was writing that. Like everyone's always like, now I'm, they do like what Chris Evans did, even released an apology like, I'm sorry for anybody that my comments may have hurt. It was intended to be a joke. Like it wasn't meant to be like that. But Jeremy Renner was just like, f you guys. It was funny. You guys don't get it.
Yeah, which I look at that as the penny arcade defense with Dick
Mhm.
Wolves, which is the wrong way to go. It really is.
It's not going to win you any favors.
No. And you know what? I can kind of understand where he's coming from with the joke. I don't agree with it at all. I think that it's not the best of jokes to make about your. It is about a character, which could be said as one thing, but when you're boiling down to one of the only female characters in the movie, what are the four?
Yeah, and one of the only two that actually has superpowers.
And
Well,
the only one that has significant screen time.
yeah. I can understand why they said. I guess the lead-in question was basically just like, "Oh, I thought she was with Hawkeye and Captain America before. It looks like she's with Hulk now." And they were just like, "Yeah, what a slut! She's messing with everybody."
It's
And
just
I can understand it too that like they're getting these questions all day, and I feel like a lot of the time, like I don't know if you saw them when they were on Jimmy Kimmel,
mhm.
where they were essentially just all just blackout pissed drunk.
Yeah,
I don't know if
they were
while they're doing these,
gone.
yeah, I don't know if while they're doing these as well, maybe they're like a little under something or something's helping them get through it. I'm not trying to justify the fact that they said it or absolve them from that. It was stupid to say it, but
See,
it
I can
is
say whatever you can say whatever you want to say about the first interview. It's the Conan interview where it's
the
like,
Conan
dude,
interview is so strange because normally when you go on like a Conan thing, you're gonna bring up a topic that you're just like everybody's gonna be on my side about this. Like, oh hey, I was walking through the mall the other day and some dude stepped on my shoes and then he farted in my mouth. What a jerk face! And everyone's like, ah ha ha! Like, no, you're never gonna go with something like people on the internet were angry because I called their fictional hero a slut. Like it was weird. Like the audience, I guess, was behind it just because they were like, oh, it's Jeremy Renner and he's talking on that couch next to that giant white thing. But the general response is like, not as many people are behind you on this.
no, and it's one of those things where if he was less attacky about it, it might be better. But he's going way on the offensive about this, and it's like, dude,
Mhm.
just pull it back a little bit. And there is to a certain extent of people being sensitive, but let's be honest. The problem that we're currently having is in the superhero genre, there's how much female representation in
None.
movies. Exactly. So calling one of the only strong characters a slut, not a great move.
Mhm.
Also, the fact that there was a lot of people complaining about the fact, and I agree with this, is where the fuck is Black Widow merchandise?
I would believe it was Mark Ruffalo actually requested Marvel directly that he'd start making more. So hopefully we get some. It is baffling to me. It's the same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy and Gamora. There is almost no Gamora merchandise, and it was solely because they're just like, well, boys, the only one buying toys and T-shirts, so they're not going to buy a thing with a girl on it. Urgh.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard so many people saying like they went out to go get a Age of Ultron shirt and there's no Black Widow on it. It's like she's a main character. The hell?
It would be really insulting if Quicksilver's on it and she isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be like also speaking of Marvel not doing great in the news. So what about that Joss Whedon no longer being on Twitter?
Yeah, I guess he's been getting a lot of backlash. I don't know the exact reason. I don't think he's come out with an exact reasoning. I believe it's just bullying, but I don't know if it's bullying because people didn't like Ultron or
Black
if
Widow.
it's bullying. I've heard Black Widow was associated with some of it. Um, it's unfortunate, and it's sort of a sad aspect of today's internet culture that a lot of people are want to be expressive towards their fans and they want to be open and have found that the internet, especially open media like Twitter, really isn't very conductive towards connecting with your audience. You're more
No,
likely, especially when you're on that level, to just get
attacked.
backlash and people who dislike you or people who can very quickly and easily anonymously attack you because they're jealous, they don't like you, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. From what I have seen, it's a lot of that. A certain group that has two-letter G's is also claiming that they had a hand in it
Well,
because
that's the story that just won't die, right?
why can't it, please? For the love of God, go away. I don't want to get too far down that hole, but fucking go away, please. I've been attacked enough on my own. But yeah, it's. Have you seen the giant image of why he quit Twitter?
I saw like a collage of different tweets, but I didn't actually
That
like
was
click it.
fairly awful.
I had absolutely no desire to actually like maximize it to see what the individual tweets like. I'm gonna grasp that these are pretty like douchey.
Yeah, yeah, they're pretty bad, and it's just sad the fact that they pretty much bullied him off of Twitter. To be fair, he did not delete his account; he suspended his account.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I was like, why bother posting one tweet if you're just gonna delete it anyway? No one's gonna see it. But yeah, if you suspended it, you'll still be able to see his tweets. Just basically nothing further from there.
Well, no, you can't see his tweets, but his
Oh, you
account is
can't.
still locked.
Oh, okay. So technically, one day he could reopen it.
Correct. He has a 3-day suspension on it that he did himself. I think it has to do with the whole verified version of Twitter. That's entirely different than us plebs. So yeah, but that's just not good. And the other thing that kind of shocks me is that all of these things people are fueling into the numbers of Ultron.
Yeah, which
And
is it's ridiculous.
yeah, there's just so much weird press going on about Ultron. And right now, the only thing I can kind of see is some people's word of mouth about Ultron not being the greatest. Because knee jerk on Ultron is that Ultron is not as good as the first one. Knee jerk.
I think I haven't heard people outright hate it. The
No.
worst I've heard is generally people like meh or it wasn't as good as I thought it would be. I've never heard anyone say it was bad. Like I hated that.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, like 7 out of 10. This sucked.
Yeah, 7 out of 10. Not enough water. But I think personally for me, and my little mini review is too many CGI battles.
Mm-hmm.
There's just too much action in the movie. It needed to pull back a bit. I got fatigued because unlike the first movie where it had enough beats between the action or enough emotional beats, like this past weekend I was cleaning because I'm going on a trip soon, and so I'm like, oh, I just watched Ultron. I'll watch Avengers, Winter Soldier, and Guardians. I didn't watch Guardians in the end. I just watched John Wick instead because I like John Wick.
You got
And
John Wick 2 coming out.
John Wick is a great movie. Um, I was shocked about how much I like watching them back. I think that the action scenes in Winter Soldier are much better
They are.
than the
This is
Avengers.
I honestly think I'm excited now for Infinity Wars, mostly just because I'm really excited to see the Russo brothers get a chance at directing this. Josh
Yeah.
Whedon, Joss, I know he gets a lot of praise for being a great figure in nerd culture. I know he's done a lot for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I feel like these movies are pushing away from where his talents are best suited,
He's
and
great
it's
as a character director. He's great with the
yeah.
characters, not with the action.
But yeah, of the Avengers movies are action, they're blockbusters, and he doesn't have like I feel like if he could maybe do a smaller movie, like if he could do a Winter Soldier, if he could do Miss Marvel, a lot of people have been clamoring for him
Oh,
for
I
that.
would love him to do Ms. Marvel. He would have been really great at Guardians too.
I feel like he'd be great in that wheelhouse, but they've been pushing him further from where he's good at, and it's definitely been having its toll. There's been a lot of like comments recently about how he wasn't happy with the process, and Marvel and him butt heads. They're not leaving on bad terms or anything like that, but it definitely sounds like he's glad to be out of the process now.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, he would have been better off doing like Ant-Man than
Hmm.
Avengers Age of Ultron. But no, it's like as someone who's been a fan of his for many, many years, I was shocked when I heard him do Avengers, and I was doubly shocked it turned out great. I'm not shocked that Age of Ultron isn't as good as the Avengers one because of certain reasons. Because I think that in the end, the Avengers does suffer from keeping the ball up in the air syndrome. It
Hmm.
does suffer from that pretty heavily. And by the way, can you hear the blender at all?
No,
Okay, I'm
there's a
surprised.
blender.
Yeah, there's a blender going on in my kitchen downstairs, and I could hear it through my headset. And usually, when it goes off, it actually interferes with my mic stand.
No, no,
I'm
yeah, we're all
surprised.
good.
It's good. It must be because they moved it to a different counter. So, sidebar. No, the thing was, the first Avengers was much more of a character movie. It was about how do we make these personalities merge. And Avengers: Age of Ultron was more about pulling them apart, but shoving too much action in there. Like, I'll be perfectly honest. I would have been perfectly okay if either all or half of the Hulkbuster fight was gone.
I like the Hulkbuster fight. I think that was like probably the cooler spectacle. I think what I maybe would have done away with is a lot of the whole South Korea plot. There was a lot of elements in that that I just didn't care for. I didn't see a need for Cho's character. I didn't see a need for basically a lot that happens in that. I don't want to get into too much because we're gonna try to avoid spoilers until
Yeah.
we get to the end. But there's a good like 20-minute break in that movie, which is it isn't like a fight scene, but there's a lot of action to it, and there's some good parts to it too. But it is ultimately something that I look at. I'm like, we didn't really need this to go on as long as it did, especially for a lot of characters who at that point were kind of just tertiary.
See, my problem is that the reason why I say about the Hulkbuster fight is that there's a long action scene before it,
Hmm.
and there's no break.
It's
And it goes into like a 10-minute fight with the Hulkbuster, which just kind of builds, and and we all know how this is going to pretty much end. And that's the problem with that fight, is that we pretty much know exactly how that's going to end.
We know it's going to end. It was sort of a weirdly constructed movie as well, and that there really isn't a breathing point until about 2 acts into the film.
Yeah.
And it's a really well-deserved breathing point. It's it's one of the better scenes of the movie, and something that apparently Joss Whedon had to fight to keep in the movie, which I'm glad he was able to because I think it's great. But it was weird that way in that because the first Avenger was slow, slow, slow. And here, there in New York, boom, everything happens.
Yeah, it starts. I think it just needed some more breathing room. I mean, honestly, I think some of the action scenes need to be trimmed a little bit. Like the opening action scene's perfectly fine. It's then all the action scenes after that just go on a little bit too long.
Go on too long, and they're really just kind of meshed into one another.
Yeah, like that's why I say like I would be okay with like half the Hulkbuster fight being gone.
Yeah, and that I could be fine with. It's still an awesome fight. Although, if you follow the trailers and the exclusive scenes and all that, you've essentially seen 50% of that fight that actually happens. They really kind of advertised a lot out of that. But
And that ends up being my problem with the scene. Well, one of my problems with the scene is the fact that we've seen most of it, and it just ends up being two CGI constructs beating the shit out of each other. And while it's got weight and whatnot, it's just missing that human element to it.
I can see that. I mean, it's tough in that the Hulk can only really fight convincingly against things that are his size, and that's kind of hard to do unless you make it CGI.
Or he fights Thor again.
Or he fights Thor again. Maybe that could work. But I mean, we're gonna run into the same problem when Thanos comes around.
Yeah, we're gonna have
Spoilers, he's
that.
gonna come around.
Yeah, spoilers. But I think that at least Thanos is convincing. He's at the size and at the level that you could throw people at him.
Mhm.
Whereas when you've got the Hulkbuster and Hulk, it's just two pieces of CGI butting heads. And I think I would have been much better with the scene if there was a break between the fight on the ship, which comes before it. There's a clip of it actually. Right before that, and there's a break, and there really wasn't. There was like a 5 second break. We're just like, we're gonna go fuck with the Hulk, and then and then it happens, and then you're just there, and it's like, I needed something just to break it up a little bit, and that is really the biggest problem with Age of Ultron is pacing.
Yeah.
Is that the pacing is so off in this film, and it's weird because the first Avengers did not feel like it was almost 3 hours. Age of Ultron feels its running time. It doesn't feel shorter, it doesn't feel longer, but it feels its exact running time. But when the moment that Age of Ultron is done, I'm like, well, that was that length of movie, you
Yeah.
know?
It was, and I've heard some people say they wish it was like 40 minutes longer
Uh,
just to put more breaks in.
yeah, about a
Um,
half an hour into the movie would have helped a lot,
yeah.
actually.
It is actually a little surprising. I guess we're kind of at that point where anyone looks at the 3 hour running time and they're just like, oh, you can't do that. Everyone complained when Interstellar was, 3 hours long. But these movies, the Avengers ones, for as much as they're trying to cram in, they really have to just kind of sit there and say, look, we have to be relatively long just because we have so many things to address.
Like for me, for instance, what would be more important, putting a break between the boat and the Hulk fight, or that party?
Oh God, I mean, yeah, if you could trim down the party a little bit and give us some kind of break between the Hulkbuster fight, that would be appreciated. And
Yeah,
again, it's not that I'm saying the party's bad either. I like the party, but
it's
it's
just
it's a long time of game to enjoy the characters hanging around and goofing around at the beginning of the movie when in the middle of the movie we really kind of needed those points to sit back and pull ourselves out a little bit from the action.
yeah, we just needed these beats and we didn't get them enough. And that's the problem, is that
Hmm.
Age of Ultron falls flat in terms of making sure that we actually can care to a lot of extent what's happening. And caring has nothing to do with the actions that are happening. It has to do with the fact that we get exhausted.
Yeah.
So once you hit that exhaustion point, and that happened to me during the movie, during the final fight, especially happened. 1 second. Once you hit that exhaustion phase, you stop caring. You're just like, people are going to save the day, somebody might die, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but everything's going to work out mostly okay in the end. That also has to do with the stakes as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to avoid talking too much of this because this kind of gets into a larger problem I have with Ultron. But to really dig into it, kind of have to get
We're
into the
gonna we're gonna talk in the
spoilers.
spoiler stuff, but when you have the stakes really high, you
Hmm.
know that when you have a universe of movies, you know that that's not going to happen, and that's why like you look at something like Loki's plan of like I'm gonna invade the Earth. You're like, I don't see it actually succeeding, but I could see him like half succeeding. I can see something going down this way, or like Winter Soldier with Hydra. That's the stakes aren't so big that you know that they're going to completely fail. And that's the problem I have with Ultron is that the stakes were just too high for them to fail even slightly.
Yeah, I think my problem with the stakes is comes down to advertising. The way
Mm-hmm.
they advertised this movie really built it up like it was going to be almost a miniature version of Thanos.
Yeah,
This was going to be someone who was just going to tear the Avengers apart while they were still at a point where the roster lineup is like, wow, a lot of these guys actually are pretty immortal. I can see this guy just running, ramshot through them. And that's not really what the movie's about. That's not to say Ultron doesn't have cool moments or he's not an intimidating villain, but it really wasn't a movie about him like, let me just stomp the crap out of this team so much as it was, let's see the team fight each other on ethics here and there.
yeah, and the problem is that all these fights that you see in the trailer kind of happen early.
Mm-hmm.
They happen early and towards the end of the movie, and they're like 2 minutes long, and then you're just like, oh, That's it.
I, what actually surprised me, and I've heard people complain about this, and it's really one complaint I just haven't understand. I've heard people say um, that this was a movie setting up too much. It was too much, like Amazing Spider-Man 2. Like, oh, they're trying to set up too much. I really didn't get the sense that this was a movie trying to build up to too much more beyond teasing a little bit of Civil War.
There's like three things it's really setting up.
There's a little bit of Ragnarok and a very scant amount of Infinity War, but it's no
And
more
Civil
of what
War and
was it Civil War? Because we get that's the biggest one is Civil War with all the Tony's Steve stuff, and we get
Tony's
a little bit of Ragnarok with Thor's vision, and then the Infinity War stuff kind of at the end. But that's no
it's
more different than what we got in the first Avengers.
correct. And the biggest problem with the is actually the Thor stuff is that it's
The Thor stuff's
obviously setting something up.
the Thor stuff's also awful. It's not really explained. It doesn't really
It just
fit
kind of
with the
happens.
movie. It just sort of explains like I have to do this thing. You're like, well, why? What is it? I don't know. No, there's no time.
I gotta leave. I'm gonna go get naked in a pool and then come back.
Yeah, you're just like, what's happening here? Well, we can't tell you. The scene I was gonna explain it got cut. Bye.
Yeah, it's like apparently like what, like 10 minutes of that got cut, and it really needed those 10 minutes. It really
And
did.
supposedly it was like a fight with Josh Whedon on that too. Of he didn't really want that scene in there, but Marvel's like, we need that in there because we need to give at least some tease towards Ragnarok.
I think I think the opposite direction. I think they needed more.
I do actually. I think they should have had that scene because it's important that they do set up some of these next MCUs. Because the big problem people had with Phase Two was they're like, hey, why isn't like Thor helping out Captain America and stuff? Like these things are starting to explain why we shouldn't expect to see some characters interfering in each other's stories.
Where is the Hawkeye?
Yeah, like what's he up to? Now we actually we have a pretty good idea of why
He
what
was
Hawkeye's doing.
doing construction
Yeah, he was off shooting people with bows and arrows.
or laying down floor.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing is that it has nothing to do with the fact that they're setting things up. It's the fact that it's unfulfilling setting up. When that Thor is so obviously setting something up, but it's not layered in well enough into the movie. Where it's just like, I'm Thor, I gotta leave, I'm back, I had visions.
Yeah, like
And
I
they didn't explain it well enough. If they had given it like another 5-10 minutes, it would have made those scenes a lot better.
Yeah. Now I don't want to like act like we're crapping on it. I actually enjoyed Avengers: Age of Ultron a
Oh,
lot.
I stand by my 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think it's a really good movie. I came out of the movie wanting to see it again. I still haven't seen it a second time, though I will soon. I think
Yep.
the final action scene is some of the coolest stuff I think I've ever seen. There's a shot at the end in the action scene that is I think the most amazing thing to see as a comic book fan. Like it is
Yeah.
so dorky and nerdy and awesome at the same time. You're like, I can't believe I am seeing this on screen right now. It's incredible. And it's a funny movie. If you liked, the first Avengers movie, it's a lot of the same. You get some great Tony Stark. You get, great in jokes that carry on throughout it. Very witty writing. You do get some cool character development. I love what they did with Hawkeye in this
Oh my
movie.
god, Hawkeye!
Uh,
Hawkeye stole the fucking movie.
he's a much more prominent character, but even in that, it's a very interesting because it's cool. It's not like I can't say like oh they nailed Hawkeye because it's really not a lot like what you understand Hawkeye. Hawkeye I tend to think is kind of like the younger kind of hotshot kind of guy in the group, but this is almost like an old Hawkeye. Like I'm
He's
fucking 2 days away from retirement.
he's closer to the Hawkeye that is in the current run of Hawkeye,
Hmm.
where he's witty. The only thing he's missing is a dog.
Yeah, he doesn't have pizza.
No, he doesn't have pizza dog.
Yeah, but I enjoyed a lot of the characters in this. I enjoyed a lot of the moments. I think it's a satisfying movie. It has a lot of flaws still, but still ultimately a good movie. And I think that's how most people are tending to finish their evaluation on it. They're like, it's not great. Maybe it's not as good as I expected it. I kind of heard mixed thoughts going into it, so I think my expectation was lower. Maybe that's why I left with a better, impression than some people I've known. But I still really dug it.
I do think that it suffers from keeping too many balls up in the air.
Mhm.
That there's resolution, but not enough resolution at the end of the movie. I think it suffers from that. And I also think that it suffers from too much editing. I think the movie did need to be 20 minutes longer. It
Yeah.
did. It needed just 20 minutes more of a little bit of explanation is really what it needed. And I was talking to somebody yesterday about the movie, and I can't pinpoint when they actually could have done it in Age of Ultron, but let's be honest, the very like the last act of the first Avengers is a huge amount of action.
Hmm.
But the difference though is that they punctuate with enough beats that you're able to actually breathe. So like it goes from the fight in the helicarrier to the Battle of New York, which is a lot of action. But you've got that bit in the middle with Coulson.
Yeah.
And that really allows you to kind of settle in and do things. And there really wasn't something like that for Age of Ultron when it really needed it. And
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Yeah, and I can definitely see it. It has its biggest problems come in its pacing.
Yeah. And if the rumored director's cut or extended cut actually does happen, I think I'll be much happier with this movie.
Yeah.
I'm
Also, and it is I'm not going to spoil much, but in case you were not aware, expect Ultron to be wacky
Oh my
because a lot
god.
of people are commenting on it that they weren't aware of it. I saw one like preview thing that showed he was making some jokes in the movie. So if you go off of just the first trailer, it's like, oh no, this dude just talks about fucking like Pinocchio analogies and how he's gonna rip him
Murder.
apart. Like, yeah, well, he makes some jokes. He gets kind of silly at points.
Yeah. But another interesting thing I want to mention is that unlike every other movie, there was only a little references that I could catch for movies that we are that aren't sequels.
I actually heard them talk about this. I guess when they were creating the movie, I think it was actually on a podcast I was listening to with one
Yeah.
of the producers or someone that worked on the film. They mentioned they were like, yeah, there's some times where we thought we could have put more references to the larger universe in there, but they were really just Easter eggs or just like quick nods that really didn't have any substance to them. We thought that was just kind of cheap to do that. Like, oh, hey, this thing's there. And we decided to, instead of doing that, we were going to put more meaningful things in that place.
They probably put some more meaningful things in that place.
They had too many. They had so many references, but apparently they needed more to cut them so they could put more meaningful things there.
No, what I mean is that like sometimes those little references mean a lot. Like this didn't have like the moment in Winter Soldier where they just name drop Stephen Strange out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, and there's times where it definitely would come up. I think the craziest thing you get is Wakanda.
Yeah, where they straight up talk about Wakanda.
Yeah, and they make it very clear this is going to be a big thing going forward.
Yeah, that Wakanda's a big fucking deal. And I really like that. That Wakanda's like not only mentioned, but it's like a plot point that Wakanda's a thing and Vibranium is a thing from Wakanda.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that a lot. I think that's a really smart idea. But I miss that like Stephen Strange moment or like Cap Shield in Iron Man 2. Like I miss stuff like that. Like I feel like every Marvel movie should have one of those kind of references.
Yeah,
And this didn't really have it. Or like the Gauntlet in the first Thor.
yeah, it doesn't really have those moments per se.
Maybe I missed it. I don't know. I
It,
was still pretty buzzed going in.
but yeah, there are still. I know there are some people talking about trailer or teases and things like that. I feel there are definitely less than we've had in previous movies.
Yeah.
Um, and we're also, I mean, I guess we'll kind of just need to see where things go from here. I don't know. Maybe it's just that Phase 3 is so kind of shaken up right now that they don't really know what they can say or not say.
There's this guy from Brooklyn who keeps swinging around all over the place.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man may have messed things up for them a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think they were expecting that at all. That Sony would come to the door begging.
Yeah, I bet they definitely didn't expect it. Like, ah, shit, we're like 4 months from Avengers coming out, you fucks.
God damn it.
Can we Photoshop some Daily Bugles into our New York City skyscrapes?
No. Oh.
Oh, poop.
I haven't rewatched it, but I want to rewatch the clip in Winter Soldier where they're like eyeing all the buildings. Project Insight is because they look at the Avengers Tower, and I didn't see if it had the same design that it does have at Age of Ultron.
I think it did actually, if I recall. It seemed to be a pretty similar design. I don't think they've changed it because they also had the Avengers Tower in the visual poster for Daredevil.
Yeah, they did.
So I
which
think it
is
must. I think it had an established design they wanted to go with.
yeah, I do love the fact that there's now jokes because bit of news about moving forward is that they announced that Martin Freeman is in Civil War,
Yes.
and a lot of people are like, no, we wanted Matt Murdock. You misheard us.
You were close, but that's not it.
Yeah.
Now they have noted that Matt Murdock is contractually obligated to do Marvel movies should the demand come around. I feel like they probably did that with the idea of like, hey, if this is popular,
Which
we'll
it
put you
fucking
in.
is.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh shit, this is insanely popular. So hey, Charlie
I
Cox, you wanna?
I can only imagine that he would pop up in that, or the fact that, oh, I just thought of that. Season 2 of fucking Daredevil is going to come out around the time Civil War does, probably.
Very likely they're planning to shoot it this year.
How much do you want to bet that the Civil War plotline might play a part in Daredevil?
It could. I almost wonder if I. I'm almost kind of hoping it doesn't though, because I feel like Daredevil worked best kind of being as separate as it
What?
was.
Okay, what I mean is that if they're going down the whole registration act,
If
it
that plays a part in Daredevil's just life, he has to start dealing with it.
exactly where since he is, let's be fucking honest, one of the only heroes in the entire MCU who has a secret identity.
Yeah.
He really is that weird now?
It is strange. I mean, now that they're getting Spider-Man, it helps out a lot. But I mean, when you stop to think about it, you're like, there are a lot of characters in the Marvel universe who don't have secret identities. Like everyone knows the Fantastic Four, everyone knows Iron Man, everyone knows like Thor doesn't have a secret identity. He's just
He's
fucking
fucking
Thor.
Thor.
Like Steve Rogers is like a known like fucking history like report.
Um, War
Black
Machine is
Widow and
known.
Hawkeye are kind of known. I
Um,
mean, they're definitely known now that their Shield records are out in the open.
correct. I don't know about Falcon, but I imagine at this point in time, not many people care.
Yeah, they're like whatever. He flies. I could
What?
fly if I wanted.
Give me a fucking jetpack. I could be better Falcon. I don't fucking know. But that's the thing is like if it all depends on where they're going down. But they're probably going to go down the fact that there's powered people, which is probably what Shield has been setting up. Is the fact that they're not really setting up the Inhumans; they're setting up Civil War.
Yeah.
And I have to say, and I don't want to go too far, but there's a thing that we talked about last week about where Shield's going to go moving forward. I think we got a glimpse of that in Age of Ultron.
They're gonna build Ultron.
They're going to build another Ultron.
Oh, those fools.
Motherfuckers. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see where they're going with that. I really thought when they started the season, this half season off, I felt like they were kind of teasing Civil War quite a lot with the characters kind of divide on Sky and our powers.
Yeah. It also does matter because I believe the next episode's a post Ultron episode.
Yeah, the episode that's happening like in 10 minutes or so, actually, from when we're recording this.
Yes, which is interesting because I actually can't wait to watch this episode because there's been times where I'm like, oh, there's a new episode. Yay.
I guess I'll watch it.
Yeah, I guess I'll fucking watch it. Whatever. But this week I'm actually excited what they're going to do because these next like 3 episodes, because there's only 3 episodes left, right? Or 2.
Is it 3? I don't know. I thought it was. Maybe it is 3, but the last one's a 2-hour one.
Something like that. There's
The last
like
one's a
none
2-hour.
left.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a quick look see while I'm still fucking half in the bag here. Agents.
Agent of Shield.
Typings.
Jerk face.
Huh.
Huh?
That's an interesting article I'll have to read later because the first thing when I typed into Google Agents of Shield is this Avengers Age of Ultron plot hole will be filled in Agents of Shield. It's like that's probably not the best place to do that in.
Yeah, that show that half the country or half the world doesn't even get.
Yeah. I'm trying to get here season 2 information. No, that is fucking production. I want episodes. There we go. Yeah, 22 episodes, and the episode this week is going to be 20. So it is. We have the next episode, then and then it's a 2-parter.
Okay.
So there's 3 episodes, but the last one is a 2-hour.
So next week is going to be our finale then.
No, yes, the week after this moment.
Yes.
Yes. So that is what's going to be going on in there. And I have to say, speaking of Shield, the lead-in, not that much of a lead-in.
No, I had to like stop and under like I had to stop and like read people tell me how it was a connection.
Yeah.
I was like, I get that he like saw the staff, but like, what does that mean? And they're like, no, no, hold on. He called. Let me just tell you how that happens. I'm like, oh, okay, thank
No,
goodness.
thank you. Thank you very much. And also, they chased List away.
Yeah.
That's about it. But the funny thing is that so prior to me seeing Age of Ultron, we went to a local bar that is actually quite nice by where our theater is, and so I'm sitting there with 10 people. We're all being loud, and I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs, explaining what happened in the last episode of Shield to people who didn't watch it to talk about the little bit of lead in. And they're like, "What do you mean Inhumans?" And I'm like, "Oh no, oh God, no! What have I
Oh,
done?"
I'm like, all right. So what's her name has earthquake powers. She's met a whole bunch of other dudes. Like one guy's like blind Nightcrawler.
And he has this semi okay apparatus over his eyes. It looks okay most of the time, but if they had made it a little bit smaller, it would have looked a lot better instead of looking like the guy's got goggles on that are flesh.
What a jerk face too. I don't like him.
He's kind of fucking terrible. But no, it's like that's the problem is that I had to explain it to a lot of people, and it's like so that was the lead in, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, why didn't you shut up?
It was more of a Shield episode than it was an Age of Ultron lead in. Like this was less whatever the fuck it was called in shit. What was it called in season 1? I want to learn the name of it because I was trying to remember the name of the episode where they do the tie-in to Winter Soldier.
Oh, didn't they call it like Angel
End of
Shield?
the beginning.
Oh, okay, I was just saying they also had like a name for it too, like infiltrated or something like that. Like that part of the season they called something else too.
Yeah, I'm actually taking a quick look here.
Quick looksies.
It's either the end of the beginning. Oh, Agent Garrett doing things. Yeah, that's not that.
That's a bit before
Okay, it's turn, turn, turn.
turn, turn, turn.
Yeah, it's turn, turn, turn is the episode. This was less turn, 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 and more of just like, oh, we're kind of. It's less
It's
that than it is with like the Thor tie-in.
yeah, I was gonna say it's in between what we got with the Thor tie-in, where you're just like, you guys did nothing with this. You just
No,
said some dude from Asgard did something, and that was your connection.
we gotta
But
go get the shovels to dig up all this Thor goo everywhere.
yeah, but it was much less of what we also got in with the Winter Soldier tie-in. And I can understand it. The Winter Soldier tie-in kind of,
Directly.
fundamentally affected them. Whereas this one, it's like, hey, let's just make a cool connection between the two. And I liked it, especially because there is a slight tease. You have to kind of read into it to get it, but there is kind of a small tease to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Age of Ultron.
I didn't catch that. We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not much else really going on in the MCU right now. Marvel is completely all just Age of Ultron, Age of Ultron, Age of Ultron.
Yeah, we did get a teaser image put out for Cap or Civil War.
Oh, really? I didn't catch that.
I don't know if it's an official thing they released, but one of their artists released it.
Oh, okay.
Just an image of Cap about to file. Let me see if I can find it. I'll show that over to you.
Well, we can continue to talk about DC and being amazing.
DC had an interesting week, didn't it?
Where the hell is Harley's pants?
She doesn't need them. She has tattoos.
Yeah, yeah. I'm okay. So I was very vocal about my dislike of the Suicide Squad picture. I got a lot of shit for it. And I stand by a lot of what I said is that I actually like the director of Suicide Squad. I think that Suicide Squad is having too many characters. We have
I thought it was like 6 people, and now I look at that fucking image, and there's like 18 dudes,
there is
and they don't
9.
have Joker on there.
Yeah, 9 plus Joker plus Batman plus apparently Lex Luthor.
Good God.
there's a lot of people in that movie, and that's the problem, is that there's too much in that movie. I like the director. David Ayer is a great director. I mean, I just watched his last movie, which was Sabotage with Arnold. I quite liked that movie. It was gory and fun. And he's a pretty great director when he really sits down to it. I mean, the man wrote Training Day. The man knows how to write.
Hmm.
But my problem just is that we have too many people, too much introduction, and when you have this many people and they all seem to be fodder, it's hard to care about the people that I don't know right off the bat.
Yeah, there's because it's a weird movie, and like, hey, we're two movies into our new universe. Let's do a movie about our minor villains forming up a team that goes on government missions, and our squad's led by Joker and Harley Quinn and then
Deadshot.
Deadshot and Killer Croc. Like, ooh, Killer Croc's your fourth man. Like, all right, Captain Boomerang and uh
Enchantress.
yeah, like Flag, but not Randall Flag, like some other Flag or something. It's like a lot of people. I'm just like, I have no idea who
Like
this is.
Komodo or something.
Yeah,
And it's
some Japanese chick.
who's so stereotypical it makes me hurt inside. And it's like I'm looking at this and I'm just going like, I just don't care. And the problem that I really have with it is that it feels like it's two movies too early.
It's too early in the sense of like, I really wish you like. I want to see like a Wonder like. And I know one's coming out, but it's like I'd really rather see like a Wonder Woman movie, and like I'd rather see like the your tentpole characters as opposed to here are superfluous side characters and villains we may never get to in a Suicide. Like I feel like I can't even conceptualize the Suicide Squad if I can't actually have seen the hero movies first.
Correct. And the fact that it literally goes Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad is ridiculous.
Mhm.
Like structurally speaking, this should come out after Justice League.
Yeah, I feel like it would be like if Marvel had done Iron Man, Hulk, Iron Man 2, and then fuck it, we don't have time for Thor. Just do the Thunderbolts. And you're like, I don't understand who these people are.
No, no, it literally goes like it goes to those first three you mentioned, so it goes up through Iron Man 2, then it goes Guardians of the Galaxy.
Just like,
You're like,
what happened to the Avengers? We'll get to them. These guys won't be in it though.
exactly. It's like it feels like it's just a little too soon. And I have to agree with some comments of like, I'm not sold in your universe yet, and you're already throwing this shit at me.
And I know people are complaining of Harley Quinn and her missing pantaloons.
Hashtag
It's
where's her pants?
it's a different design that I think I wouldn't mind so much if it was a different aesthetic across the rest of the movie. Because Harley Quinn, I feel like that might look that's not actually crazy far off from some recent interpretations of Harley Quinn's character. It's not as though she was exactly conservatively dressed in the Arkham games or anything
No,
like
she
that.
wasn't.
But it's just a matter of I don't like this grunge punk look that the entire cast has, and it doesn't help
Yeah.
that there's like it's like her and the Joker. Like I was like, if that's your distinct, like these guys are going to look so weird in this movie, but everyone else looks exactly the same. Like everyone else also looks like they're like waiting for their turn on the half pipe.
Yeah, it's like she just looks like, look at me, I'm a special snowflake.
You're like, not really. I mean, you're like one of two chicks, but
Probably the only one who's going to live through the movie.
you know what? That's you. Oh, I can't believe you'd say that. How you don't have faith in?
So
Um,
moving on. No, I have zero faith. I have zero faith that everybody but her and Will Smith and that other guy who's actually an actor is actually going to live through this movie. I have a feeling that three people are going to walk away from this alive. They're always going to kill two or three people. That's the point of the Suicide Squad. I mean, in Arrow, where they did two Suicide Squad episodes, I think. The first one, they killed somebody like fucking instantly. Because the person's like, I'm not gonna do this. I'm gonna fucking run away, and just dies because they have like explosives in their head.
oh
Because
dear.
of course they do. But no, the problem with the Suicide Squad is if you don't set up villains and the revolving door policy of Arkham, the Suicide Squad doesn't really work. Because you're talking about a movie that's gonna be 2 hours long. They have to set up the concept of the Suicide Squad, introduce these villains, introduce something for them to go after, and then the mission itself. That's probably half of the movie is set up.
Yeah, I mean, and especially when almost no, like, you don't really need to do much to set up the Joker. People are going to grasp him. You maybe don't have to do a whole lot to set up Harley. People can grasp her quickly enough. She's not that complicated. Like, she's the psycho girlfriend of the Joker. Like, that's pretty easy to grasp. But even your main, like, star of Will Smith in this movie, nobody knows who Deadshot is. Nobody, like, if you're not a comic book fan, you're not gonna, like, I don't even know that much about Deadshot. He's an assassin for hire, I think, a bounty
The
hunter for hire.
sniper that never misses.
Yeah, like, but I need more than that. Like, what's his personality? I don't know. Like, you need to establish that. And then I see like five other dudes in this photo that you need to do that for. And I'm just like, who's this guy? What's Tom Hardy doing in like a FUBU jacket and a fur coat over top of that, and not being in the Bane mask?
Yes, brother.
Oh,
But the problem is that a lot of people like you can set these characters up in 5-10 minutes. Yes, you can. You can set these characters up very quickly, but am I going to care about them?
mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Is like you can easily just say like, oh, Deadshot's a sniper who just never misses, or here's this, here's Deathstroke. If they were to throw Deathstroke in there, I'm surprised they didn't throw Deathstroke in there. And you could do that, but I'm not gonna care.
Yeah. I mean, my enthusiasm. I don't want to like be the guy pooping on this movie because it really
I do.
ultimately it is. I don't care about this movie. I didn't care about it when they announced it. I haven't cared about it from the announcements. The only aspect of it I cared about was Joker and Harley because it's like, oh, cool, let's see another Joker, and hey, Harley Quinn finally makes it on the big screen. Awesome for her. And
Hooray!
outside of those factors, I'm like, I just don't care about this movie.
No, it's like that's the thing. I just don't care.
It's just not in my wheelhouse. I don't like the aesthetic to it. I mean, that's kind of like the final nail in the coffin for me. But it's the concept I didn't really care that much about.
Yeah. Well, that's really it for that. And by the way, while we were talking, Chris sent me the picture that we were talking about, and it's concept art out of 10.
Yeah.
So it looks like to be it's also looks like fan art at the same time. But
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure who Humberto Gonzalez is. Fanboy journalist, 8-pick scoop predator. He must be somebody who works for like a news outlet or something like that. I thought I heard it gain a lot of attention, so I figured it would have to been from somebody at Marvel, but apparently not. But
and the one thing worth mentioning is right as we're talking, Agent of Shield tweets, "What is Data Protocol? We're gonna find out tonight." And I'm like, great, we're finally gonna figure that shit out.
let's figure this thing out now.
But that's pretty much it for the non-spoiling the shit out of Agents of Ultron.
Yeah, pretty much. Um, yeah, not much else really going on. We're still kind of waiting for the point where they're going to swap over and start talking about Ant-Man.
Hopefully soon, because I'd like to hear more about Ant-Man.
Yep.
Ant-Man. It's weird when you can say Ant-Man might give them good press
Hopefully.
because it just looks fun.
Yeah. It does look. It should be a fun movie, and hopefully they kind of nail the advertising right, and they start getting people kind of excited for it.
Like I know all the other showings did, but my showing did not have an Ant-Man trailer.
No, oh no, mine did. We didn't have. We strangely, for some reason, didn't have the Star Wars trailer. I thought that was like a guaranteed to go with everything.
Yeah,
But
that was our last trailer was that, and Jurassic World. We got both of those in 3D.
we got Jurassic World. We got Fantastic Four, which
Ugh.
um,
It looks too fucking serious.
it's just it's a movie that just has not grasped that superhero movies have advanced since 2007. Like you could have easily told me this was a follow up to Silver Surfer, just with better visuals or darker visuals, and I'd have been like, yeah, I completely buy it.
The one thing that they actually have me slightly interested in is if they're actually making Doctor Doom a serious villain. And I'd be very happy with that.
I mean, his preview was that he was going to be a hacker.
So that's going to do it for us.
Did you not hear about that before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was like, do I get to blow your mind?
I forgot about that fucking shit. So Deadpool.
Yeah, I guess we caught some flack for not mentioning Deadpool in our discussion of all things
That
superhero
happened.
movies.
Deadpool just falls under the Fox umbrella where I don't give a shit because Fox is fucking terrible. Other than for some reason they somehow nailed Days of Future Past,
Mhm.
but I have a bad feeling about Apocalypse.
Uh, Days of Future Past could be good. I like a lot of what I hear they're
Apocalypse, you mean?
Apocalypse. Oh yeah, sorry. Age of Apocalypse. It's weird that they have two Age ofs coming out at all. I like some of the things we got going on in that. I'm not crazy on Sophia Grace playing Jean Grey. I've seen her in Game of Thrones, and I feel like she's very Kit Harington to me. She has one expression I really can't get beyond that.
Yeah.
So I'm not crazy about seeing her in that movie, but I'm excited for it at least in the potential of what we could get. I liked Days of Future Past a good deal, so
That's what I'm
I'm
saying is that Days of Future Past did a good job. I have a slightly bad feeling that it's not going to carry over to Apocalypse because Apocalypse is tough to nail, and with Fox and how they nail things, they're just not going to nail it well.
yeah. I've heard people very excited for the Deadpool movie. You know, Ryan Reynolds he's been kind of advertising it the right way of kind of being like they nailed the fucking costume where I said I was walking, and you know they're showing all the cool stuff like, oh, here's how the costume's gonna look, like don't worry guys, it's gonna be ours. So if you're excited about Deadpool and excited about the Deadpool movie, things are looking great for you. I don't like Deadpool, haven't cared for him. I always thought he was just an annoying character, so for me, interest in a Deadpool movie is very limited. So I don't really have much of like a holy crap, a Deadpool movie, like all these things look awesome, everything does look cool, just I just don't care about Deadpool the character.
Yeah. That's pretty much my thoughts on it too. Like, I think Deadpool's an interesting character. I like the idea that they might be throwing Colossus in there to be his foil, which is from the original fucking leak script. Like, what was that? Like 6 years ago?
Oh, really? Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
Colossus.
like his buddy cop is Colossus.
That'd be worth it. I do love the shit out of some Colossus.
It's like they also play off each other very well. Where you can tell Colossus is this straight man, and it's perfect. That was from a script like 5 6 years ago that came out. Where like in that script, it began with Deadpool watching X-Men Origins Wolverine in theaters, going, "What the fuck? That's not Deadpool. Who the fuck is Ryan Reynolds?"
Well, we'll get another shot at it, and hopefully good things come from it.
Hopefully, good things. I've been currently looking at the set photos for Suicide Squad, and hey, dear Will Smith, put the fucking mask on.
I feel like they're not going to put it on him very much because it's like, hey, you know, we're going to pay this much money to get Will Smith in our movie. You
They're
know,
not
why are
just
we
gonna
going to
name
hide?
drop Dread.
Yeah. Well,
Like, I'm gonna be honest. That's what I loved about Dredd is that Carl Urban was like, I'm gonna wear the mask the entire movie because that's what Dredd does. Dredd never takes off his helmet, and the one time he did in the comics, it was censored.
yeah, and I think that DC's like, hey, fuck you. I paid a lot of money to get fucking Will Smith in my movie, and I'm gonna
Hey,
make
to
sure
make
everyone knows.
sure Will Smith is seen everywhere.
Yeah, everyone does know Will Smith was in this movie.
Yeah, because Will Smith is certainly the box office draw right now.
I mean, he's had so many great hits recently.
Like, didn't everyone
After
go and
Earth and
see that
The
movie?
Karate Kid.
Or that other movie where he was with that lady and he was a robber and I don't even know the name of the movie?
Yeah, did you also see his other great hit with Margot Robbie from this year?
Nope. No, I
What?
didn't. Fun fact.
I didn't either. I haven't been doing exposition dump, so I haven't seen a lot of those like side movies, thank God.
Yeah, I was done with that, like even helping out with that show, and I had to go and see fucking Transformers 4, you asshole.
You know what? You could have shut up. I had to see crap too. I had to see fucking Kit Harington in Pompeii.
Hey, I had to see Transformers 4.
I managed to get out of that, but I feel like collectively the crap I had to see makes up for it.
Yeah, I think it's actually equal. All the shit that you had to see equals that, and then you try to get me to see TMNT, and I'm like, no.
I did see TMNT. I feel like I gotta get points for that.
I said I saw this, I'm good. TMNT was pretty bad.
It was not good.
No. But that is enough about things that aren't this. Hey, what about the fact that Arrow's going to be Casey Jones in the new TMNT movie?
So Ultron spoilers.
Yes. So we're gonna be coming out with an episode either a couple of days after this, which is gonna be all Ultron spoilers. Fun, funny thing. We're gonna be recording it right now. So see
Yeah.
you guys.
Bye.